Today I'm gonna be playing the Stanley Parable, the sequel of the Stanley Parable actually. So let's just jump into it.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy.
Stanley sounds like he would love RuneScape.
And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Okay, so now we finally started playing. Yeah, as far as I know, this is exactly like how the first game was. So far, it's exactly the same.
Gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Where's the meeting room? Nice painting. Seems like a very big office here. Oh,
Stanley came
we
to a
have
set of
our
two
first
open
dilemma.
doors. He entered the door on his left.
Should we obey the narrator? Nah, let's disobey.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
The employee lounge, let's see where that is. Pretty nice lounge. Do they have any cold
It had really
drinks?
been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully
We gotta get
constructed
this
room.
vending machine
Stanley
fixed.
simply stood here, drinking it all in.
No, not drinking it all in, because I cannot drink anything from this room, sadly.
But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Should we keep disobeying? Yeah, we're rebels.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't 5 years ago.
Warning, do not jump from the cargo. Will cause death. Penalty for misuse of cargo lift. But if I die, do I still have to pay? Well, if this is the disobey playthrough, I think we should disobey once again.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong... But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do,
So,
Stanley
did we
leapt
die
from the
then?
platform and plunged to his death. Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks
I
you
guess
are
I
very
finished the
powerful.
game. Was that a
All of his
record,
coworkers
like,
were
am I on
gone.
top of the
What
speed
could it
run
mean?
leaderboards now?
Stanley decided to go to the
I didn't
meeting
cheat,
room.
I
Perhaps
swear.
he had simply missed a memo.
So, should we obey him this time? Yeah, let's obey the narrator this time.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief,
Financial
Stanley
panic
decided
meeting.
to go up
That's
to his
basically
boss's
every day
office,
in
hoping
this
he might
market.
find an answer there.
Number of slides on the slide. Rate of increase in graphs per slide. Please, no more charts. I'm begging, please stop. Oh, boss appreciation minute. What do people want? Things? Money? More money? Things? But with money to buy more things. Graphs. No, I don't think they want graphs. Okay, do we continue walking down?
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Stanley do be walking upstairs to his boss's office. Oh, this is quite a nice office. It reminds me of the Squid Game, like the place where the VIPs enter the first time, I think. Is it just me or am I just... Let me know if it also reminds you of Squid Game.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley
What
wondered in
happened today?
disbelief who
Is it
orchestrated
Sunday?
this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's
Can I play the
desk
piano?
guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him.
Let's
And
see.
so the
Let's
boss
check
had
the
assigned it
keypad.
an extra secret PIN number. 2845.
Thanks for telling me the
But of
boss's
course,
pen.
Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
2845, let's not forget that. Where do I enter that? Oh, here. 2845.
Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to
Quite
enter the
lucky, yeah?
correct
Pretty
code.
good
By
RNG.
sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Should we go down?
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Ooh, mystery. Oh shit, sparks.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read
Mind control facility. Escape. Should we escape? No, I think this is the total obedience run, so we have to obey the narrator.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret
Yeah, so
did this
far this
place
is exactly
hold?
like the
Stanley
first
thought to
game,
himself.
because I remember
Did
all
he
of
have the
this.
strength to find out?
What do we do? Okay, press
Now
the
the
camera
monitors
button.
jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley...
So we are
one of
seeing
them,
through each
eternally
employee's
haunted
eyes
in
right
this
now.
place where freedom meant nothing.
This looks like Mark Zuckerberg's office. I assume he has something like this built in his home.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
Where
No.
will this take us?
He refused to believe
No.
it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible?
I
Had he
bet the
truly
Clintons are
spent
behind
his
this.
entire life utterly blind to the world?
Oh. It's very dark in here. Can someone please turn off the lights?
But here
On,
was the
I mean,
proof.
not off.
The heart of the operation. Controls labeled
Mind
with
control
emotions.
status offline.
Or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
How do I dismantle the controls? Mr. Zuckerberg, are you hiding anywhere here? Where do I disable? Oh, it's this. I see a big red button. Usually big red buttons disable things, but not this big red button. 5? Do I press button 5? No. Mind control idle, awaiting input.
And when at last he found
System
the source
power
of the room's
off
power,
or on?
he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
So we are still on the obedience run, right? So we have to call it off. Oh shit. Spooky.
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes. He had had won.
No more
He had
Facebook.
defeated the
No
machine.
more boomer posts.
Unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone?
Shoot,
How
I
had
have
he
to go
been freed
outside
from
now.
the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange...
Can I just stay inside? Is there Wi-Fi
As
here?
sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand.
Does anyone
to
have
let
the
go.
Wi-Fi password, please?
No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing.
I guess
Stanley
it's
stepped
finally
through
time
the
to
open
touch
door.
grass.
Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Oh, good ending. Or is it? Achievement unlocked. Beat the game. So, when I died, I didn't actually beat the game. Now I actually beat the game. Good, good. But we're back in the office.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
So
Stanley
what
decided
can
to
we
go to
do
the
differently
meeting.
this time?
Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of
Let's
two
go
open
to the
doors,
left again.
He entered the door on his left. Coming
What
to
if
the
we go
staircase,
down this
Stanley
time?
walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Shit, this is scary already. Oh,
But
can I
Stanley
drive the
just
car?
couldn't do it.
No.
He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be
shit, who
fined
dropped
for
this?
that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed
Yeah, the
everyone had
economy.
vanished. His boss would think he was crazy. And then something
Wait, I'm back
occurred to
here.
Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of
Am
my
I going
coworkers blinking
round the same
mysteriously out
circle?
of existence in a single
Yeah, I
moment
think I
for
may in
no
fact
reason
be
at all.
crazy.
None of it made any logical
Can
sense.
I go back?
And as
No,
Stanley
I can't
pondered
go
this,
back.
he began to make other strange observations. For
Yeah,
example,
I am.
why couldn't he see his feet when he looked
Oh
down?
shit, am I
Why did
PewDiePie?
doors close automatically behind him wherever he
That makes sense, I
And for
guess.
that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply...
Yeah, very familiar
No,
indeed.
Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He
What
just
conclusion
hadn't
is
found the
that?
words for it. I'm dreaming!
Oh.
He yelled. This is all a dream.
Wait, am I dream now?
What a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid.
I
So,
mean, it's not a
he
very
imagined
enjoyable
himself
dream
flying
though.
And began to gently float above the ground.
Oh shit, I'm
Then he
flying.
imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not
I'm
given
in
up.
space
How
now?
was he remaining so lucid?
No, I want to go
And then
back to
perhaps
space.
the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head?
That's a pretty
dictating
good question,
everything that
that's
I'm doing
true.
and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about
So
a
many
voice
layers.
describing me, thinking about
Such a
how it's
philosophical
describing my
game.
thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream.
Oh, so it's not a
Could it
dream.
be? Was
So
Stanley
I
simply
just
deceiving
randomly went to
himself,
space.
believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream.
Wait,
The voice
is
not
it
seem
a dream
to
or
meet the
not?
magical
What is it?
stars just a
Make up
moment
your
ago?
mind.
How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control.
Kind of
that
reminds
this
me
was
of
a
Chuck
dream.
from Better Call Saul.
So he closed
right
his
now.
eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake
Okay,
up.
let's wake up.
He felt the cool
Wake
weight
up.
of the blanket
Wake
on his
up.
skin, the press of the mattress on his back. The fresh
Fuck, am I
air of
actually
the
dreaming
world
now?
outside
Let's fucking
this
put my head as well.
Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over.
I'm through with
Let me
dream.
go back to
No
my
longer a
job.
dream stand.
Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job.
I want
All
my
I
wife
want is
back.
my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal.
I am normal. I take
Everything
normal
will be
pills.
fine.
Too many dream references. I should stop being funny probably a year ago. So I'm awake now.
Stanley began screaming.
Oh shit, I'm screaming now.
Someone wake me up. My name
Please,
is
someone
Stanley.
wake me
I
up.
have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell
It's
me
funny
I'm real.
how
I
the
must
first
be
thing
real. I
he
must
said to
believe
describe
what
himself
people
is,
say.
I have a boss.
Who am I?
Oh fuck, my ears.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
What? He changed his gender.
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got
I have
dressed,
to be
gathered her
careful not to make...
belongings,
Oh
and
shit,
walked
what
to her
happened here?
place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man
Is
who
that
had stumbled
Stanley?
through town talking
So
and
he was
screaming
crazy
to
all
himself,
along.
and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew.
Obviously, don't
Everyone
judge.
knows what crazy people look like.
How do crazy people
She
look
thought to
like?
herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her
So
feel
seeing
better.
a dead man in the
Then she
middle of the
remembered meeting
pavement
she had
made her feel
scheduled for
better.
that day. The
Are
very
we sure she's
people
the sane
whose
one here?
impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body.
I
then
think
she
you're
turned
not
to
very sane yourself, Mariella. So we beat the game again, I guess.